Hello, everyone. How are you? How are you? How are you? Let me move this back a little bit. I feel like it's so close. How are you? This is the TERRAN Lamp Show, episode number 61. Episode number 61 is now in the books. We're making that happen right now. We are here Tuesdays, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time, every Tuesday. There's some Tuesdays I take a self-care break, but I think I'm allowed, so that's okay. Let's see. Make sure you are checking us out on IGTV. You can check out all the prior episodes. You can also check us out on YouTube. You can also check us out on Apple Podcasts now. So we are on Apple Podcasts. The TERRAN Lamp Show is officially on Apple Podcast. Yay! And if you have a story, I would love to have you here on the show. If you know someone who has a story, I would love to have them on the show. So again, this show is all by word of mouth, and all volunteer. Everybody that comes on the show is coming on the show at their own free will and kindness. And we've been, like I said, kicking it strong for 61 episodes. I'd love to continue the show. We're booking guests now into 2022. So please make sure you get a hold of me. If you know someone who has a story, please make sure you hook it up. If you have my Instagram, you probably do because you're on here. But or if you have my mobile number, feel free to text me. Call me. I just want to keep getting guests on the show. Just shows about positivity and love. And if you have a story, which I know you do, I'd love to have you here on the show. You can inspire someone. No story's too big. No story's too small. I would love to have you on the show. Let's see. A few housekeeping things. If for whatever reason we get cut off, we will be back. We'll be back 7:30 to 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Like I said, every Tuesday. I think that my guest is here. Let me see. I want to try to do something too. I want to try to pin something. I don't know how to do that. So I don't know how to do that. The TERRAN Lamp Show. Let's see. If I comment there and then I do this, there's a pin comment. That is how I do it. Okay. All right. So, yeah. So check us out. I can't get this down here. I'm trying new things right now. So anyway, check us out on Apple Podcasts. Check us out on all the social platforms. Follow, like, share, all that good stuff. So let me get my guest in here today, Miss Ursula. Hello. I don't know what. I'm trying to move all the comments down. Hi, Lauren. Hi, Ursula. There you are. Hello. You look gorgeous as always. Look at you with your makeup. I just got back from the gym, and you're all like you just got back from a party. You look great.
No, but I did. Thank you. But I did make sure I was.
I miss you so. I know we're trying to plan something. I miss you so.
That's why I said we need to go to dinner.
Let me see if I can turn my volume up. Is that me? Hold on.
You know what? I need to do that too.
Let me see.
See.
Oh gosh, everybody. Sorry. Pause when I'm trying.
Okay, I think
I just dialed like an emergency. Okay. All right. I think we're back. Can you hear? Okay. Yeah, we're back.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, Ange. Happy anniversary. So today we are going to be talking all things. So let me just give a little background. That I thought that I would show, for example, what we're talking about here. So for those of us who might know me, and for those of us who might know Ursula, or for those of us who might know one of us or both, we know that one of us, let's just guess which one, is way more organized than the other. So you can guess which one. And so today we are going to be talking about all things planning, all things organization, all things budgeting. And I brought this just to help with your guess of which one of us is most organized. Anybody on the line have a clue on who's the most organized and who's the least organized?
I should show you mine. Because it
So
looks a lot different than that.
this is a hot mess. So in my professional life, that is my professional life, by the way, and that to me is organized. But I wanted to talk about this because I think that, I know what your journey is. You've been doing some home improvements and different things and taking yourself through that. But, there's something to be said for being organized and being, planning things out versus going willy-nilly. So I don't want to take all the thunder, but I did want to say that, you've always been a planner, right? Whenever I think I don't even know where I'm going half the time, most of the time in my life. I'm like, where should what time do I have to be there? And where do I need to be? And what do I need to wear? So let's get into all things planning, all things budgeting, all things organizing. And I just want to know where that came from. I mean, tell me more, share.
So what's so funny is that it's very obvious we've been friends forever, because that's the direction I was going tonight. Because initially I wanted to talk about the process of, purchasing, a home. I did that in November, and then updating and renovating and all that. But I quickly realized that these concepts can apply to so many different areas in life, more so around decision making, in which organization will help benefit that. So a lot of people are paralyzed when they need to make a decision, right? Like for young adults, like what college will I go to? For, if you're, working in your career or in the middle of your career, near the end, you're making a decision. Do I stay in this particular role? Do I stay with this company? What do I do? Even if you're in a relationship, you have decisions to make within that. So I was, kind of taking some notes to see that are applicable across the board.
Right.
But in terms of where it comes from, I know, I was just going to say, so my dad just joined, and I was just going to say that I have to give he and my mother a shout out, because by observation, I saw how they were and how they planned and organized our home life, their work life, and just, it was never too structured, but it wasn't ever in disarray. Like we didn't know, well, what we're doing, what's going on, and all of that. And I've always been the person, because it provides me comfort to know what is going to happen next.
Okay.
It's not controlling, it's just having knowledge of that. So for
the opposite, stability, right?
Exactly. Well, like, just like, for example, for your bachelorette party that we did, and we had, friends come in from different parts of the country. You never know, in a big city like Chicago, something could be closed, something could be open, what have you. So I had a plan A, but that didn't work out. We also had a plan B and C. So we weren't standing there like, well, where are we going to go eat? Where are we going to do this? So that's part of it. But a couple of the things that I wrote down when, in terms of making a decision, I think one of the most important things is understanding what your high priority items are, because no choice that you're going to make will check all the boxes. Okay. So if you're deciding on a college, for example, you won't necessarily get your major, the cost, the location, and the size all at once. So out of those four things, what's most important? Is it most important for you to be closer to home? If that's the case, then these fall off the list. Is the major the most important? If that's the case, then these fall off the list. So it's having an understanding of self to help you decide what the next steps are going to be.
So you said make your priorities.
Yes. Yep. And having and knowing what are high priority items, I call them, because you can have several priorities, but some way more than others. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So you I mean, you might be getting to this, but what are some of the, I guess, tools to help you make those decisions? Or do you have any specific things that you could tell people, that you've used in the past that's helping you? And maybe in different areas, like maybe you use one tool for work, or one tool for home improvements, or one tool for personal. Anything specific that you use?
Yeah. So one thing, and this is probably way more complex than anyone wants to do, but you can use a piece of paper or a spreadsheet, whatever helps. And let's just choose home buying, for example, because that's what I started this thought process with. So you're listing all the things you want. You got budget, location, size, all these things, right? And then you weight them. You give them a weight, like on a scale of 1 to 10. Out of a scale to 10, this one is probably most important. This is a high priority and things like that. And then once you're comparing different options, you give each one a score. And then you can kind of see, I know that's so nerdy, but if you're
never done that in life, but it sounds, but it's important. I mean, I'm, we're giggling at it, but you think about all the decisions that you make, right? And
yes.
I think, we just had a situation, a personal friend, and going through some things. And, when you're thinking, when you're in the moment of all that chaos, you have to have a way to organize your thoughts, right? Like,
exactly.
We do giggle about it, but it is so important to have a tool. I don't, I was asking because I think about, like, what is my tool? Like, I do list, but I think the weighting thing is something that I should incorporate,
Well, I just think it really helps because you can list, but all things are not weighted equally.
Yeah.
So, for example, when in choosing the home that I'm in now, I had a few options that were within my budget, but one of my high priority items was location, because I have a 7-year-old, she's going into 2nd grade, and within my school district, there's 14 elementary schools. Now, I'm sure all 14 of them are equally great, but we had already been 2 years at the one that she's currently at. So when one of the homes was in that district or in that location for that elementary, that helped supersede the fact that I didn't particularly like that it doesn't have a master bathroom, because that is more important to me. But for someone else, that may have a different, family situation where there's 3 or 4 people in the home. Maybe it's more important to have a master bathroom. So they're okay with going to a different school. So it's going to be different for everyone, but it's kind of having an understanding of yourself as well. And people talk about, self-care and self-awareness and things like that. And this isn't even a self-care thing. I just call it knowledge of self, of getting to know yourself and saying, well, what's important to me, and taking some time to think about it and journal and brainstorm and just throw things up on the wall. I mean, something we do at work, even with all the technology that we have, it's been a little more difficult with COVID, but when we're trying to solve a problem, we literally take Post-it notes, put it on a wall, write down ideas, put them up there, and move them around to group them and things like that, see what makes sense, what doesn't make sense, because you have all these ideas, and then you can start grouping concepts together to see which direction you should go. And I would do the same thing in your personal life.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, because one of the things when I did my TED Talk is one of the things they said is I put all these different ideas about what I want to have in my talk up on my board. Yeah. And then I organized them into what pieces of information were analytical and what pieces were emotional, and make sure for my talk that I balance them out. So to your point, that can go personal or professional, right?
Exactly.
That is a tool that's, like you said, even though we have all this technology in the world, we can still use minimal cost and effort, right? We can just put some Post-its up there and do the thing. So I wanted to ask you, because one thing you said is about Plan B. And I think when okay, so there's organizing, and then we have me who, everybody, like I said, if you don't know me, I have anxiety. I slightly obsess over some things. So slightly, it doesn't go right. I think that having a plan B is important, and I think it's cool to be okay with plan B. I want to give this example of Ursula mentioned earlier. So she said it earlier, she has a 7-year-old, but when her daughter was really, really young, I don't know what possessed her. She must have been super, super desperate, but she asked me to babysit me. And she had a list for me of how the night was supposed to go. And at the time you left, I don't remember exactly what time you left, But you guys were texting me saying, is she doing this? Is she doing that? And I was like, we are doing none of those things. We plan, you know? But the most important part, right, was that she was safe and having a good time. But sometimes the plan goes awry.
Yeah.
And so then you have your plan B. Tell us more about creating plan B and being okay with plan B, because like I said, my obsessive Taryn says, oh my gosh, we got to get plan A perfect.
Right, right.
So
Part of that too is some of that is just kind of hard coded within you too. That could be part of your personality. That plan B for some people is just, it's not an option, or they don't understand it, or they completely fall apart.
yeah.
And I think those people have more challenges, and we all know someone like that. When something doesn't work out, they completely fall apart, and then you're there for them and things like that, and then eventually they do something else. Some of that is learned behavior, some of it is hard coded. So I would probably have to do a little research to see how to work your way out of that. But it's just also having a dose of realism, and understand that in life there's always typically a plan B, or there should be another option that isn't as great, but it's still good and still works and still accomplishes the goal. Because the goal isn't necessarily the journey, you know, it's like, there's an end goal, right? It's to have a good time. Like, I'm using your bachelorette, for example. Now, whether it's this bowling alley or this place, we're all gonna have a good time. But even though I really wanted this, at the end of the day, we're still gonna have a good time. And then same with my home, is that even if this didn't work out, where I got the home by my daughter's school, she's still going to be in an excellent school because I stayed within the school district. So I set some parameters to help keep me within all of the acceptable possible options.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of it too, is just kind of opening your mind to different scenarios.
Yeah, and I think that's hard, you know, sometimes, because you really think about, or I do anyway. I think, oh man, this didn't work out, and I'll be obsessing over that, you know, for the next 20 years.
Yeah.
So with that said, I know you probably have some other points planned. So share with us what else you have written down.
I mean, honestly, I was just going to say that part of that is, with understanding what your high priority items are, is also doing research. And I think that's part of something that could help, like you, for example, where understanding, so you have your plan A, but if you research, like if it's a particular role, for example, with work or something, or let's just do something that I know you enjoy doing very much, is travel, right? You and your husband travel to all these different places, and even prior to that, you went to China, you're like going to Europe, you lived in Europe for a couple months, you're doing all these things, and there are so many unknowns. But prior to going, you do some research, so you can at least have some sort of planning of, okay, well, where am I going to go? Where am I going to stay? And if this doesn't work, then I'll probably go here. And before the age of the internet, research looked a little different, but it was still possible, and we still did it because we were all traveling before we had our smartphones and things like that. So that's another example too of how do you decide where you want to go, and then you list all these things. You have your budget, you have your time that you have, like let's say you have 3 or 4 days, and you're like, okay, well then my flight or drive needs to be X amount, and then by doing that, you're eliminating options so that it's not as overwhelming. So you're like, gosh, like let's just say you're staying in the country, and you're like, oh, there's so many places in the country to stay, but okay, well I only have 3 days. Okay, well that cuts out 75% of the country. So now we're here, and it's not within my budget to fly, so I need to drive. Okay, well that cuts it out here. So it's almost like a process of elimination. And that's how, you know, honestly, I've made a lot of my decisions too. Sometimes if I don't know what I want, you know, I don't know what the right answer is, but I also know what isn't the right answer. So I cut all those things out, and then at the end of the day, you're left with 2 or 3 things, and then you're like, oh, okay, it's one of these things.
What percentage of the time do you say you write these down versus what percentage of the time do you say you just have them in your head?
Oh gosh, I probably write down probably 80, 90%.
Wow, that's a lot.
I do. So before smartphones, I had little journals that I would keep with me.
Mhm.
For at Purdue, we had these little notebooks called mortarboard. I'm
Yeah.
sure schools have other things, and they might have something completely different now. But it was like a little calendar, a little planner, and had every day, and I would write down my schedule and the times and all these things. And in high school, I did the same thing. And now with my phone, you should see my notes section. I'm writing things down. I'm
Okay.
documenting, jotting down thoughts, so then I can go through, and that helps me remember. Like just like for tonight, like I wrote down a bunch of
Yeah.
stuff on here, so just to make sure I hit everything. So,
So
but
it's about 85% of the time, 80 to 85% of the time, you're writing some down versus having in your head. I think
yeah.
um, that's good to know. I mean, I write stuff down, but it's all over the place. You're like you said, yours is probably a little. This is my organization for those who.
I have to show you mine.
What does yours look like? Show us yours.
I
Yours.
will. Hold on just a second.
Oh my guys, shame. This is gonna put me to shame. My calendar. This is another month. You see this?
But I will say, so it doesn't have work in here. It has just personal items. So, because I have all of my work one appointments are integrated within my email with my Outlook, and I have personal things in there too. But with this, for example, like I'll just show you.
Is it by month or week or day or what are we looking at?
So it's by month, but I'm gonna show. Yeah, so this is June, and I cross off days as they're done.
Yeah,
So
so
it's not a whole lot, but
she crosses off days as they're done. I have days crossed off. They're they're all the same day everywhere. But I do think it's important. I mean, I think it's
like here's
important to
another. Like here's July.
make. Yeah, you're well organized.
Yeah. So
Yours is
it's
not near mine. If anybody on here has any organization questions or tips or anything like that, definitely let us know because this is what we're talking about right now. All things organization, all things decision making, all things planning,
and
kind of keeping your life in order, if you will.
yeah, and the one thing that's helpful too is when I talk about knowledge of self, it's also knowing what your strengths are and your weaknesses are,
Mm-hmm.
and what you're good at and what you're not, and elicit help in things that you're not good at to help ease that burden of decision or frustration. For example, like
Frustration, that's a good one because it does ease that one. Somebody, I forgot the thing I heard. Basically, it's like if you prepare, you don't get so frustrated. I'm not sure
well,
what it's the exact saying, but you can be help.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that's part of planning. And like for my home, for example, the home I ended up purchasing, I bought it realizing I would need to do a lot of updates, like
Mhm.
cosmetic updates. The structure and the bones, as they say, were good. All the appliances were within 5 years old, but it was very dated. It was built in the mid '80s, so I knew that. But interior designing decor is not my thing. It's not my strong point. I get very overwhelmed by it. I get confused. I don't know what to do. So I have a really dear friend who helped me. Her name is Jennifer Murray, and she has an interior design company, Jennifer Murray Designs. And so she helped me make large decisions like what color to paint, what kind of floor, lighting,
Mhm.
things like that, and had resources of getting hardware and things like that. So she knew my budget. She knew how much time she would be able to spend with me to work within the budget that I had allotted for that. And that helped ease so many frustrations and concerns, because if anyone has looked at any type of paint, that Benjamin Moore book is about this thick. And
Yeah.
there's 10
Yeah.
colors on every single, page. So it's like, what do you do? So I think part of it is just understanding where you need an additional resource instead of trying to self-educate or do
Mhm.
everything on your own. So
Yeah. I mean, I think that's part of your research, right? Should
It's
be
part of the research. Yeah.
figuring out how you can, what you can maybe do on your own to save. We kind of mentioned budgeting a little bit to save some time and money, but what things can't you do on your own, and how should you outsource it or resource it or whatever it's called?
Yeah.
And how much that's all going to cost if you do one choice A, as we talked about. For choice B,
Yeah.
I think it's cool how it's just we talk a lot about this is in my personal life, this is in my professional life, but these types of things that we're talking about can be both.
Yes.
Sometimes I feel like some days I have a personal life brain and a professional life brain,
Yeah.
but these tools can be integrated into personal and professional, and quite frankly probably should be.
Yes. Yeah. Because I would say, and especially once you have, different variables, because as we get older, we add different variables within our
Mhm.
life, whether we're in a relationship or not. It could involve children or
Right.
not, but it typically involves some other aspect of your life outside of your day-to-day work. You have family commitments, you have
Mhm.
other side hustles, you have extracurriculars, you have like a million things going on, lamp, and then you have your, trap and release project that you're going on with
Yeah.
the cat. So all that, you have to plan for all that. You have to
Yeah.
organize all that, or else it's just very chaotic.
Yeah.
And you wake up every day completely overwhelmed. And
Yeah.
we have a friend that had experienced that. She's experienced that a lot in her life, and she's a new mother, and she's realizing that in order to get things done,
Mhm.
I need to plan that. And she's never been a planner, and she's in her 40s. But you know what? You're quickly learn how, because every day she was waking up completely overwhelmed and paralyzed.
Yeah.
And you can't do that. So then you realize, okay, I need to make some adjustments.
Yeah, I think as little as I don't plan, I think what I do plan is it's helpful to, like I said, keep my anxiety down when I know what's going to happen. I
Yeah.
think that's the biggest thing I've learned out of planning and organizing is how it helps me, like I said, keep my anxiety low. Even though I don't have all the answers, it keeps my anxiety low to be prepared. So I feel like even though I can't be prepared for all things, I can be prepared for some of the major things that some of the major things that can happen.
Yeah. And I think that that's perfect. Excuse me, using yourself as an example with your anxiety, that I've noticed with you over the years, when you do have a plan or you do have an
Yeah,
awareness of what are some of the other options, you're a little bit more at ease, a little more comfortable. Or if you know the plan is to not have a plan, you're comfortable with
yeah.
that too, because then we're just hanging out. There's no plan.
There is no plan. Hey Jay,
So yeah, hey Jay.
I think that
So
I think that is important. What other the last minutes we have we have one more question, but before we get to that last question, what are your final thoughts and what would you like people to know about starting?
I just think that, I think a lot of people, especially with the age, the technology age we're in now, I think the art of writing and putting things
Uh,
down on pen and paper is getting
mhm,
lost.
mhm.
And I can't stress that enough, that that's kind of a lost art to help, number one, planning, and number two, to help imprint things in your brain for those that struggle with maybe memory,
Yeah,
retention, or forgetting things, or not being able to sleep at night. Because I remember years ago I went through a period of time where I wasn't sleeping well, and then someone had mentioned to me, a friend of mine was dating a sleep consultant, and he said, well, have a pad of paper next to your bed, write down all those things that are swirling through your head so you don't forget them, because you're not sleeping, because you don't want to forget all the things. He's
yeah.
like, just write them down, go to sleep. And that one simple thing, I mean, within 2 days I was sleeping again. I was like,
Yeah.
wow. So it's a lost art, because it's just a different connection with your brain to hand to pen to paper. You can type it in, but writing it is I can't stress enough that that would probably be one tip, is to
So
write.
I believe that the lost art of writing. I mean, so for so many ways. I'm gonna transition just because you said that. Because you know what I do is I email myself. So I'll email myself. But to your point, I'm using the technology. So I think it might be better
I
to write.
mean, that is definitely an option that does work. And writing, and if you're losing your papers, that doesn't help either. So there has to be some
Yeah.
organization to part of it. But having, like, this is like a spiral little pad, right? And this is something I just keep in the kitchen. I write down grocery lists on it, things like this, or I have something in my bed. But then other lists when I'm out and about, I use my phone,
Yeah.
and then I can look through there, like my budget, when I'm looking at my monthly expenses, because it kind of ebbs and flows depending upon the season. So then I'll change that, but I have an idea of what's coming in and what's going out. So I guess documenting however you do it, I think is just really important.
I think that's a great last tip. The art of writing is lost. So we need to start thinking about planning and remembering to write.
Yes.
Write our plan. Okay, so the last question, we're a little over, but the last question, and I don't know if you know this one because I bet you haven't watched the last few episodes. So here we go. You mentioned it, you know, I got my little cat situation going on, and you know, they say curiosity killed the cat. So the last question, anything, it can be anything. It doesn't have to be work related, doesn't have to be organizing related. This is a surprise question. What are you, Ursula, curious about?
What am I curious about? Oh gosh.
I know she didn't watch the last few episodes, so she didn't know I was going to ask this question.
No, I didn't.
Anything.
I'm just curious about, and I'm just learning every day when one experiences a major life shift, how do you pivot to the next thing?
Pivoting.
Yeah.
Jay said, hee hee. I know, Jay. She didn't know this was coming on. I know too, hee hee. Yeah, pivoting.
I mean, just in general.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm currently dealing with, and I'm just like, gosh, I know people have done this, but it's just like there's no playbook, and it's just so different for everyone. So I'm just very curious of what time is going to look like six months from now.
Yeah.
So
how to pivot, when to pivot, what to pivot, and all that. But I'm sure planning has helped.
Yes, absolutely. It's given me so much comfort to have, that skill set and to plan, because there are a lot of things that I can have an impact on. So the few things that I can't, that really helps. So
just so you know, I think Charlene just sent us a message asking us what time you're going to be on. Come on, Charlene, did you just send us a message asking what time? And just says, right, this is spoken like a true free spirit. He must be a free spirit. Ride the wave and see where it takes you. That sounds like a plan. I like the plan. That would be me too, riding the wave and see where it takes me. Spoken like a true spirit, free spirit.
A free spirit.
So, and I think sometimes that you can do that, right? I do think you can ride the wave and see where it takes you. And I think sometimes there's definitely a time for that. So I do like that advice as well, because I think. But I gotta know when to separate it. I guess for me, it's just knowing when to separate it. I can so fast, but that's just me.
Yeah.
Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen. Wow, that was fast. I mean, that was fast. Quick, down and dirty. We've got some. We need to make sure we're writing things down. So that can be our tip. Is let's not make sure we lose that art of writing things down and planning things, and then thinking about I like the thought of thinking about your high priority items. When you're down a lot of things, there's going to be a lot of priorities in your world, but what are the things that are high priority? And also being okay with having a plan B, because sometimes plan A doesn't necessarily go in our favor per se. So we're 5 minutes over. Oh my goodness, we could talk forever, which means so we are, guys, this is episode, we have just really officially, started off the episode saying we put episode 61 in the books, but really we have officially now put episode number 61. We've been going strong for 61 episodes. Make sure you're out on IGTV, YouTube, now Apple Podcasts. So all these episodes, the audio version will be available on Apple Podcasts and all podcast channels. make sure you are connecting me to people who would be great for the show. And if that person is you, make sure you get a hold of me. I would love to have you on the show. We are booking guests into January of 2022. We're going to keep going strong. Some things that I would like to plan are, I'm still trying to decide how to keep this, make this philanthropic. I've had some ideas, and I'm even considering, I don't know. I'll come on one of my episodes when I don't have a guest on and tell you more of the things I'm planning, considering. But I definitely want to make this more philanthropic. We're hitting a lot of people on IGTV because a lot of people go back and listen to these episodes. We're hitting some people on YouTube.
And on YouTube too. Yeah.
Yeah. Some people on podcasts. So, we're growing, and I want to continue to reach heart disease and cancer survivors. That's my focus in some sort of philanthropic give back way. So I appreciate your time as always. I love you.
I know, I love you too.
We are going to be back, guys, next Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. This is the TERRAN Lamp Show, episode number 61. Signing off.
Bye.
Be good to yourself and each other. Bye, guys.